Tesla's issue. It just keeps on going on and on. Now the main issue here, it's not about their software, the full self-driving, which I have an issue with that, and then their battery issue, which caught fire, whether that's an isolated or a rampant issue, but nonetheless, it needs to be rectified because it scares off adapters of whether they should purchase an electric vehicle. But aside from that, there's an issue here. So if you currently own a Tesla vehicle, one of the main issues that you might encounter is if it stops in the middle of the vehicle, in the middle of the road, you'll have a problem. You will not be able to pull it aside so that you don't, congest or block the highway here or in the road. And is it an intention, or is it something that the companies, or in this case Tesla, neglect to look at if there was a problem? Because if typically a car shuts down, you can just put it into neutral and then pull the car or push it manually on the curve. But in the case here, if it locks up, in park position, so you cannot move it. So you can just imagine in the middle of the highway if that were to happen here. Anyway, according to the article here, jalopnik.com, so the Tesla braking itself on the highway is a reminder that electric cars need to solve their neutral problem. And it's not just that, the neutral issue. Think about it. If your car is shut down, and take note, you rely on battery, energy to support your vehicle, everything else, right? There should be a backup or a separate system that you could just integrate or use in case of emergency. So imagine that you're so reliant on the view screen for the Tesla vehicle, right? The dashboard, so to speak, is the go-to dashboard for where you interact with the vehicle. And if it shuts down, how are you going to operate it still? That's why traditional vehicles, you can still, use the blinking lights, turn on the lights separately, and then there are different switches that which I tend to appreciate nowadays if looking at this problem from electric vehicles in the present. And now one of the main issues, if your car breaks down, you have little to no choice on what to do here. And what's interesting here, it was mentioned that there was an incident with the Tesla, which was recounted by the owner. So let's take a look here. Let's see what was the tweet was. So you can see here, so you can just imagine in the middle of the night or at night, and then your car breaks down, and according to him, the joys of living on the bleeding edge. So this is the price of being a early adopter of technology here. So it literally locks up in the middle of the highway, and obviously you cannot do anything about it. So there must be a system to disable that locking mechanism here, which is, I think this is a big oversight from the company, especially from Tesla's side, especially the engineers, that there should be safety mechanisms to protect the passengers and other motorists in the road. Because you could just imagine the dread that you have to deal with, that there are a lot of vehicles passing by, small and even large vehicles, or even trucks, trailer trucks passing by. So he goes on to say that what happened was the car began to beep, and a warn that says that he needs to pull up immediately due to some power issue. And then after that, then it locks up, and then the car comes to a halt, which is not a good idea, a good experience. And then being stuck in the middle of a highway is not good. And to be able to do that, the parking brake needs to be released. So there must be a fail-safe system, just like a handbrake system for braking. If your brake doesn't work, you should have a handbrake that overrides the braking system, so that you can ensure the safety of your vehicle and the passengers themselves. And this issue is not just limited to Tesla. It's a common issue for other EV manufacturers here. What's interesting here is to be able to address the problem from that person. You have to use a flatbed tow truck, and it's not just a regular tow truck that you can use. It has to be a particular one, so that it can accommodate the intricacies of managing the vehicle, since it's stuck, it cannot move. So you can just imagine what type of tow truck you need to be able to do that, so to speak. Anyway, That's why electric vehicles has some way to go in terms of offering solutions for the car neutrality in a sense, and which is interesting. Some car manufacturers are able to find solutions here somewhat, and it goes to neutral. So in the case of Nissan and Chevy, the Nissan Leaf or Chevy Bolt, so what happens here, the cars automatically shift to neutral. So it can be set or programmed once, let's say, the battery dies out. So obviously, there's no more control from the driver's side, or the drivers themselves. So there should be a safety mechanisms in place here. So if other car manufacturers can do this, I think Tesla should be able to do this. And why is it that we're seeing a lot of issues coming from Tesla? If maybe they're trying to sell as many cars as they can, and overlooking some of its flaws, which is kind of interesting. With the fully self-driving, it's kind of dangerous marketing it as a autonomous capability, which is not. It should be advertised as full assist driving capability, which I think much more reasonable here. And obviously, free rolling your vehicle in the middle road, is important, especially if your vehicle shuts down, especially if there's no battery left. And obviously, that's why the early adoption for EVs is still, the demand is growing, but there are still issues that needs to be addressed before you can see in the future that there's more EV vehicles on the road versus combustible engine here. And what's interesting here, there are regulations that states that all EV must have a mechanical way to get into a freewheeling state regardless of the condition, regardless of the battery or the drivetrain capabilities here. And it's not just the locking mechanism of the parking mechanism. It should be also the other features, doors, windows, or even trunk, so that in case of an emergency, you can still get out of your vehicle safely without any help, or maybe there's a manual unlock mechanism, so that if anything were to happen inside and everything were to die out, there should be a way to hard reset your just like how you hard reset your computer here, which tends to happen more often than not. Imagine that in a cooped out vehicle here, which is a not a nice experience if you were to be in that position here.